Several years ago, I had the honor of inaugurating the John J. Ingalls Spirit of Freedom Award, and we continue that tradition tonight. Tonight's recipient is a little bit different than the activists that we've given it to in the past, the people you may think an award like that would go to, but we're going to watch a short video here and we'll talk a little bit more about the recipient, and you'll know why he absolutely is worthy of that award. John Ingalls came to Kansas when it was still a territory as an ardent free stater, and said, "The best results are attained when people are left to settle the great questions of society by individual effort. All that legislation can do is give men an equal chance in the race of life." And Wade Moore is living out that creed today. He's fighting for our kids in Topeka and in Wichita to make sure that they do have an equal chance in the race of life.
This work is about changing the culture of education, which means success for a greater number of our students. I believe that we should reform education so that they don't even know what welfare is. They got to understand that if we do not pass these laws, we'll see more of our children fail. We'll see more of our children in the penal system. We'll see more of our children committing crimes. We'll see more of our families going to the graveyards and burying our children. We need them to pass these laws now so that we can stop this cycle.
To hear Pastor Moore thunder away at a Capitol rally for school choice or to testify before a committee makes the policies that we're working on real. It's the people that these policies affect. It's not just a piece of legislation. It's the kids that he's trying to serve in his community and in our community.
I'm seeing children that even though they will receive a high school diploma, they still cannot read, they cannot write, they cannot reason. And those are things as a pastor, as a community leader, as a community activist, when you really get involved with people, you see that this child has not received a proper education, that more or less they've been pushed along. There is a special need, especially in the urban community, a need for charter schools to help them escape that cycle of failure and dropout and just indifference in education. Understanding the current charter laws and the current charter system and not being able to open a charter now, it has caused me to be more involved in the process of helping to get laws changed. It will take a courageous effort on a lot of people. We have an opportunity now to give every child an equal access to a great education. We've talked long enough. We've studied long enough. We know what's going on. So now it's time for somebody to make a decision, to take some action and do something about it.
And Pastor Moore's work really is truly giving Wichita kids an equal chance in the race of life. We have two previous recipients of the Ingalls Award with us here this evening. And I want to just briefly discuss who John Ingalls was because he's a little too often forgotten. He was a founding father of Kansas, coined our state motto, served 3 terms in the United States Senate, and was an applauded author in his day. He helped draft a constitution that ensured Kansas would come into the Union as a free state after coming here, being born in Massachusetts. And Pastor Moore's work goes simply beyond agitating in Topeka, as you just saw in the video. Although I think it's very fair to say that Kansas's only school choice program wouldn't exist were it not for his efforts. Our school choice coalition was lifeless, I think, maybe a generous way to put it, until he came on board and he really breathed life into it. By way of brief bio, he's a recipient of the Denny's Restaurants Living African American Hero Award. He's the current president of the Greater Wichita Ministerial League. He was recognized by the local NAACP as the Clergy of the Year and is a veteran of the United States Army. Pastor Moore leads the Christian Faith Center just right down on South Broadway, and you saw some footage there from his school, the Urban Preparatory Academy. This was a mothballed USD 259 building that they bought, brought back to life, and are now reinvigorating a neighborhood and indeed our community. This spring, Pastor Moore testified on an expanded school choice program in the legislature, and an opposition legislator kind of sarcastically asked him about the results of his school in what was then his first year. She just couldn't stomach that maybe a private school was the way that these kids could actually be better served. But the numbers speak for themselves. I think you'll probably hear a little bit about those successes in a few moments. But the school is growing, and what could be more of a testament to the work that they're doing, to the team that he's brought together, than that last year in their first year they had 13 students, and this year they have 39. So in 1 year, people have voluntarily chosen to attend his school, and they've grown 3 times in 1 year. And there can be no greater testament to the value that he adds to his community and to those kids. Shortly after I met Pastor Moore, my family and I went to his church, and it was wonderful just to see him come bounding down off the pulpit to give me and our then 9-month-old son and our wife a big hug. And just the warmth of his congregation was truly inspiring. I'd encourage you to visit Urban Prep if you have the opportunity. You'll see the passion that he has, that his teachers had, and most importantly, that those kids have. It truly is invigorating and inspiring to me, both personally and professionally. It makes the policies that we work on in Topeka that you all support really come to life. Otherwise, it would be little more than another piece of legislation. So thank you very much for joining us, and please join me in recognizing Pastor Wade Moore as we present him with the John Ingalls Spirit of Freedom Award.
Thank you all very much. I am certainly honored to be here tonight and to be a recipient of the John Ingalls Spirit Freedom Award. And thinking about this and preparing, a good speech writer or someone that gives a good speech, you always got to have a good opening. And people always remember that opening if they don't remember anything else that you said. And so I thought a good opening would be just a good, friendly joke concerning a preacher, since I am a preacher. And the story goes that there was a man, and we'll call him Joe, and he got sick. And they called his preacher to the hospital and said, "Hey, Joe is sick, and we really need you there to go and pray with him and just see, are there any requests that Joe has?" So the preacher makes his way to the hospital, and he gets there, and there's Joe lying in his bed, and he's got his oxygen mask on and everything, and all of a sudden, Joe motions for a pen and paper, and the preacher's standing right there by his bed. And Joe gets the pen and paper, and Joe begins to write something on the paper. And as soon as he hands it to the preacher, Joe dies. He's gone. And the preacher feels bad, and he thinks, this is not a good time for me to read what Joe wrote, so I'll just fold it up and put it in my pocket and read it later. And so at Joe's service, the preacher is there, and they're memorializing Joe, and the preacher says, well, this is a good time to read what Joe wrote me there at his bed. And he pulls the paper out, and he reads, and Joe writes, "You're standing on my oxygen line." So, moral of the story is, sometimes us as preachers, we don't always stand in the right place. And sometimes we can cut off lifelines for people, but I am one that certainly don't want to be standing on the lifeline of a child. I believe in our children. I believe in them wholeheartedly. I believe so much in them to where I would put everything on the line to see a child have an opportunity in life to better themselves. And so receiving this award speaks volumes, not for me, but for those that have helped me understand school choice, free market, the necessity of everybody having that opportunity. So I want to say thank you to my family, first of all, that's here with me, for allowing me to spend time driving up and down the road to Topeka and doing everything and getting home and going again. Thank you very much for that. I want to say thank you to the entire Kansas Policy Institute, to your entire team for believing in me, for mentoring me and giving me an opportunity to fight alongside of you in this war on declining mobility for our children. And I'd like to give a special thank you to James Franko. James was the one that kept me in the loop. James reached out to me. He always made sure that I was aware of everything that was going on and the opportunities that we would have to help change lives. And he mentored me in this political process. And I thank him and thank the Kansas Policy Institute. And so I'm honored to receive the Senator John Ingalls Award. I'm grateful to stand with people that give so much, people that give so much time, people that give so much attention in making lives better in Kansas. And I say Kansas is a great state. And it's great, and it's only gonna get better. It's gonna get better. When I first came to Kansas by way of the U.S. Army, one of the first things I noticed was that there was a school and a church. Hadn't paid that much attention to it. I didn't pay that much attention to education. I didn't pay much attention to education when I was growing up. I brought my high school transcript with me tonight, and if anybody wants to see it, you would probably throw me out of this room and say, this guy. But I've got my 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade transcript. I think I have 4 A's on that, and therefore athletics and reading. And I think I counted like 32 C's, a few F's, D's, and D minuses. And so that was my educational journey all the way through high school. And so was I stupid? No, I just wasn't challenged. And a lot of times I was just pushed on to play athletics. But it's not where a child is, and so many times we're pushing children through, and there's opportunities for us to really help them and reach out to them, all right? And so I'm here to help and reach out to them. Someone wrote a quote, and you'll probably hear this later on, that there are 2 very different kinds of help. There is help that destroys hope and help that engenders it. That's Mr. Arthur Brooks that wrote that. And we educate and challenge our children at Up Academy that it can be done and you can do it. A lot of times, you know, when we've been up to testify a number of times, and they say, well, these schools only pick the best kids and send the worst of them back. I beg to differ. We have gotten children into our school, 3rd, 4th grade, that could not read. And so when you get children in, boy, you take a step back, you take a breath, and say, okay, let's tackle this thing. And teachers like Miss Sandra Marr that would take time, and you get a student in that cannot read, but in less than 9 weeks, this child is sitting in my office reading. And so I'm honored, you know, to be a recipient of this award. You know, beginning a school in the state of Kansas has not been an easy task. But what makes it more enjoyable is those day-to-day tasks like that. I want to close with one of my favorite authors, Mr. Arthur Brooks, and he's my favorite author because I'm reading his book right now. So next week it'll probably be somebody else, but you're it this week. All right. And he says that there are 4 steps to making the transition from minority to majority and turning a protest movement into a broad-based social movement. First of all, you have to launch a rebellion. Secondly, declare a majoritarian values. Declare majoritarian values. Third, claim the moral high ground. And fourth, unite the country behind an agenda. And that's what we've been able to do at Urban Prep, is those 4 things. And in the Senate and in the House, Kansas Policy Institute, Friedman Foundation, and others, we did those 4 things. We've launched a rebellion, we declare a majoritarian values, we claim the moral high ground, and we've united Kansas behind an agenda. And I'm so looking forward to what's next and fighting this battle, making Kansas a great state. And I believe that you know, a lot of successful people are in this room. I want to raise up successful young people that are going to sit in here one day among us. And I believe that through the power of education, and if we can get legislation going, I believe that children like me that only saw A's in athletics can one day stand up on this platform and say, it is because of this organization, it's because of great people like you that believe. That's why I'm standing up here. God bless you. Thank you very much.